There is one sound that no one knows. What does the fox say? So to raise awareness, I'm going to make some fox scroll saw art. Let's delve. I started out with a printout that was supposed to resemble a fox. If you're wondering how I got that, I just ripped a picture off the internet and drew a bunch of lines all over it using a very advanced and modern new painting software that lets you draw all sorts of colors over existing photographs. It was supposed to print out in color, but the printer I utilized likes to prank me, so instead it printed out all yellow. Because of this, I just traced everything with a pen and then wrote a letter on each different piece that correlated directly to the species of wood I was going to use. After cutting all the separate pieces out and sorting them according to their assigned species, I could begin to glue them in place. I'm only using 3 different species of wood. Walnut for the dark areas like the eyes, the inside of the ears, and the nose, cherry for the majority of the body, and maple for the lighter contrasting parts of the body. After gluing all the pieces onto the boards, I could begin the mildly tedious process of cutting them all out on the scroll saw. Several things I learned from this experience. The first is that cutting very small pieces with an old blade is a very foolish idea. The blade likes to catch in the piece of wood, and then shake it up and down with the movement of the blade at a very great rate of knots. If you don't have shifty fingers like I do, you could very well end up with several relatively minor cuts on your fingers. The nice thing about the scroll saw is that it probably isn't capable of cutting off an entire digit unless you were really trying hard. It doesn't cut very fast, and should your hand end up engaged with the blade, I imagine your reflexes would be quicker than the destructive power of the blade itself. I am about to show a clip where the blade tries to catch on the piece and shake it up and down. Notice how I take control of the situation by telling it to be quiet. Quiet! The cutout process took about 30 minutes, maybe a bit less depending on things like the wind and the traffic situation in Dubai. After everything was cut out, I could piece it together like a child pieces together a puzzle. After that, I battened down the hatches and prepared for a lot of sanding. With all the various apparatuses set in place, I could take the first piece and use the small disc sander to sand off the paper and the glue. As a side note, sanding paper and glue tends to clog up and ruin sandpaper really quickly, but I don't take care of my tools anyway, so it's okay. Then I used my random orbital sander held upside down in my vise that was clamped down to the table I use as a workbench to sand it smooth and add a bit of a rounded edge to the piece. The vibrations from this tool shook the pieces all out of place, so I proceeded to glue the first piece in anyway. This sanding process took even longer than cutting out all of the pieces, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to see an entire hour of sanding and walking back and forth from the sanding machines to the rest of the project to make sure everything was lined up perfectly. So I've condensed this bit of the project down to about 20 seconds of foolishness. Enjoy this time lapse of me going back and forth a lot of times. As of recording this, according to socialblade.com, I am projected to hit 1,000 subscribers on May 15th, 2023. Let's see if we can do it before then, shall we? And as always, I really would appreciate any sort of feedback you have for me. If you leave a comment down below, so long as it isn't vulgar or in Braille, I guarantee I will respond to it in some sort of fashion, even if it's in a foreign language. Mandy Hale once said, "Sometimes you take a wrong turn to get you to the right place." And I would like to add to that and say more often than not, a wrong turn takes you to the wrong place. I tried to be fancy and tried to pop the bubbles in this polyurethane finish with a heat gun, because it works with bubbles in epoxy, so it must work with poly too, right? Wrong. It ended up getting all gummy and weird, and I had to sand it all out and try again. And this is yet another example of me trying to do things that look really advanced and fancy simply because I am videotaping it. It was a completely unnecessary step that actually just made the situation a lot worse. It's silly how I feel pressure to make these things look overcomplicated just because I want some sort of strange affirmation and respect from a stranger who might watch this. Gichin Funagoshi said, "Don't try to be a great master and don't try to show off your strength. And that was me trying to show off some sort of strength or vest or knowledge that wasn't even existent. And in the end, it just made me look like a proper fool. I added a little shark tooth wall hanger on the back of it for all your hanging needs. I will put this thing on my website just in case someone actually wants it. Fair disclaimer, because of the heat gun incident, the finish is not perfect by any means. But if you want it, for $28.48 US plus shipping and tax, it's yours. I will link it down below. How's my hand? Thanks for watching. On the top right of the screen, I have a video of me transforming a wall clock, one of my favorite, yet least viewed videos of all time. On the left, I will have a playlist of all 2 of my scroll saw art projects, and on the bottom right of the screen, there will be a subscribe button if you haven't already delved. Until next time, go have a Diablo chicken sandwich, available now at Arby's.